stream sings a lullaby. There grows a lily fair.
I'd like you to picture a Christmas pageant. The old, not a Christmas festival, not a winter festival, a Christmas pageant with a Christian undertone. The carols have been sung, the readings have been read, and now it is time for the nativity play. And the curtains have been drawn. And Miss Nolan, the schoolmistress, is speaking to the crowd in the parish hall. And in the front row are the nuns from the convent, the Mother Superior, Barry, Dr. O'Reilly, the priest, the Presbyterian minister, important people. Miss Nolan comes in front of the curtains and she reads. And she must have known the words by heart. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. Barry, who believed he had left religion behind, found he had a lump in his throat and a prickling behind his eyelids as she told the story. In his mind, he repeated the words with her, and as a concession to the Protestants present, they were the majestic words of the King James Authorized Version of the Bible. And he'd made no conscious effort to learn that as a child, but had absorbed it. And knowing those words was as much part of Barry Lowry as his blue eyes and the tuft of hair that stuck up on the crown of his head. He looked at O'Reilly. And to Barry's surprise, the big man's lips were moving too, and they were forming the same words that Barry was hearing from the stage. Into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. The pulleys creaked, the curtains opened, and it came as no surprise to Barry that a group of shepherds near the back of the stage sat around a pen of live sheep. Such props would not be hard to come by in Ballybuckle. A spotlight focused on Joseph, who wore open sandals and a white robe tied at the waist with a piece of rope. The same cordage must have been haggled to tie a checkered hanky round his head for a kafaya. Mickey Corrie led a live donkey by its halter. Mickey Corrie has been given the part of Joseph this year. And last year's Joseph, who thought he would be doing it again, has been given the role of innkeeper. There are subtexts of tension. Mickey Corrie led a live donkey by its halter. Jeannie Kennedy, wearing a long blue dress up the front for which padding of some sort had been stuffed, rode side saddle. She clutched the donkey's mane and looked at Barry as if she was terrified that she might fall off. The party stopped outside the door over which hung the Bethlehem Inn sign. Oh dear Mary, everywhere's full, maybe this inn will have a room. The lines were delivered in a flat monotone. I hope so, Joseph. Joseph knocked on the door. It was opened by Colin Brown. He was bareheaded and wore a grey robe that looked to Barry as if it might have started as one of Mrs. Brown's dresses. He sported a blue and white striped butcher's apron. Hello, innkeeper. Colin's smile was beatific. His words enunciated loudly and clearly. Who's there? It's Mary and Joseph. We've come to Bethlehem to be taxed. Mary and Joseph. Barry had harboured a tiny doubt that Colin might try to pull some stunt. Now he relaxed. The little play was going perfectly. Could we have a bed for the night? My wife's having a baby and she's very tired. Colin's voice was soft. It was welcoming. Well, Mary, he emphasized the word Mary. Well, Mary, I've no room at the inn, but of course you're welcome to go into the stable. Barry stiffened at one eye. I remembered the rehearsal. Of course you can, Mary, Colin said. Then he turned to Joseph and yelled, well, as far as I'm concerned, Joseph, you dirty wee gurry, or you miserable little gobshite, you can just feck off. There was such a communal indrawing of breath that Barry thought the walls of the hall might bow inwards. He glanced at the stage where the players, all save the innkeeper, who had a wicked grin, were frozen as in a tableau vivant. Mary's eyes were wide. Joseph looked as if he was ready to kill. A shepherd was on his feet, yelling. It must have scared one of the penned sheep, because the animal cleared the hurdles of its pen and collided with Mary's donkey. Barry heard an enormous bray, the donkey, with Mary clinging to its mane, ran at the door to the Bethlehem Inn, knocked the innkeeper flat, and disappeared into the wreckage of collapsing scenery. He knew he shouldn't, but Barry couldn't stop laughing. He felt a tugging at his sleeve, turned and heard O'Reilly yell over the road, "For God's sake, come on, Barry, I need a hand. The Mother Superior's fainted." I love that scene. I absolutely love that. It's funny, Dorothy, my partner, tells me that one of her kids' Christmas pageant, the same, more or less dramatic setup was, but when Joseph asked if the innkeeper had a room, he said, "Sure, but a twin, do you want to come in?" No. Break from reading. What else can I tell you?
Is Miss Nolan going to come in the next novel?
Miss Nolan has already reappeared ever so slightly in an Irish country cartoon.
I know.
The one after that, number 6, is called The Dublin Student Doctor. And it takes Fingal Flaherty O'Reilly back to being 24 himself in Dublin before the Second World War. And I hope, because so many people have asked me, what made O'Reilly the man he is? And O'Reilly originally, he was like one of Zeus's children, and Aphrodite, I believe, sprung fully formed from Zeus's forehead. O'Reilly sprung fully formed at 56 in humour columns I used to write for Stitch. And it's been niggling me for years, why is O'Reilly O'Reilly? So I've written that book. I'm on chapter 17 of the next book, which goes back to where courtship leaves off. Ain't telling you no more. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
This is very beautiful books, and I am going to be off to Ireland in June with my parents.
Aren't you lucky?
Yes.
Where are you going?
To Dublin and to Killarney and a bunch of things. So South North.
Wonderful.
And Belfast too. So this is going to be my first time traveling. Yeah, I'm really excited. And when I started listening to your books, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm Kimberly.
Are you, Kimberly?
Hi.
That's lovely to meet you.
And I'm a singer too. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Under any other circumstances but an appointment later, I'd ask you to sing for us.
Oh.
Yes? Yes, ma'am.
Would you say the name of the town again?
Ballybuckle Bow.
And how did that come? Does it exist?
Oh, God, no.
Oh.
When I was a young fellow at school, children are very cruel in the nicknames they give to their teachers. We had a very good French teacher called Lousy Larmer. And Lousy had come from somewhere near Ahull, I think. Those of you who don't know Ireland don't know where the hell Ahull is, it doesn't really matter. He had an even more pronounced straight accent than my own. And his idea, teachers in those days were not interested in my self-esteem. They'd say things to me like, "Taylor, were you born this stupid or have you been practicing?" And Lousy once said to me, when I failed to conjugate an irregular French verb, "You're so stupid you could come from Ballybuckle Bow." That name was stuck in my head ever since.
Well, the way I learned to read, I have to, in my head, I pronounce everything.
Yes?
And when I come to Ballybuckle, I stop, and it's like a little gate.
We'll just call it Buckle Bow.
Or bow, I guess.
Oh, Bow, sure. It does actually mean something.
What does Bally mean?
Well, Bally is the townland, which is a Norman geographic administrative division, the smallest there is, and it's a village and the surrounding farms. And essentially, arbitrary boundaries were driven around them. This is the townland of Lisbane, which is the White Fort. This is the townland of McGelvin or wherever. So, Bally means townland, okay? In Irish, I don't speak Irish, by the way. I steal it from friends when I do. Buchail is boy in Irish, and bow is difficult. It can either be spelled B-O or B-O-H-O. Bow is boy, and B-O-H-O is hut. So it's either the townland of the boy's hut or the townland of the boy's cow. And it's not as far-fetched. When we were living in Roscommon, the next town up the road was Drumshanbo. Drum is old, Drum is rich, Sham is old, and Bow is cow. Drumshanbo, the village of the old cow. It does actually.
She has my heart.